How are you feeling so far?
I'm okay. It's hard to tell in the middle of all this whether I come across as ineffectual as I feel. You know, where you know, I'm less yelly, but I'm more. There's a thing called fumphering where I go ba 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 and you know that's you know, it's not the best debating style, but I don't know. I really can't tell.
Can you just really quick tell us about how your day goes? How do you start your day and how do you end your day? All the in between, just really quickly.
All right. So I lost my job about 3 years ago, writing for late night TV, and it's hard to get another one of those jobs, especially, you know, I'm 57, and I've been trying to get a book published, and 2.5 months ago I said, you know, I've got an agent and stuff, I have to do another proposal and send it back out, but I kind of said fuck it, and my kid said, you know, the tweeting is over. You don't get deals off of being on Twitter, but tweet threads are a thing, largely because of Trump, because the political conditions and the investigations and everything, a lot of stuff is very complicated, and the explainer people like Seth Abramson sometimes take strings of up to 80 tweets to explain some of the more complicated situations. My kid says, do a thread. So I started publishing sample chapters of my book via this Twitter thread. And then I ran out of sample, I didn't want to give away the whole book. So I just said, this is all of the book you can have after about, I don't know, 300-400 tweets. But I'll keep writing stuff for the thread so you guys have new stuff to read. So that's what I do every day now, is from roughly 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., if I'm at home and not running errands, I'm trying to release a new tweet for the thread every 15 to 30 minutes. And the thread is up to almost 1,700 tweets. It's the most successful book on Twitter ever, which isn't saying much because very few people have done something this stupid. So that's my day.
What is your Twitter account number?
Dumbass Genius. Because as you can tell from these debates, I'm both really smart and really stupid.
Tell us about how do you keep your physique? You look great. What do you do?
Well, I've got OCD, so I've been going to the gym every day since January 21st, 1991. I haven't missed a day. I had to do crazy shit sometimes, like if there was an earthquake and they closed all the gyms, I'd have to go to the park and do pull-ups on the bars and do some other shit. One time, my wife took me on a trip to Hong Kong, and I had to find a place on the airplane to work out. And this was before 9/11. There's no way that, you know, they would let you get away with, you know, doing pull-ups on the partition between classes, you know, now. But for the past, ever since December 30th, 2013, I've gone to the gym at least 5 times a day, except for 4 of those days. I just go gym to gym to gym to gym. Today I worked out 6 times. Yesterday I worked out 6 times. Ever since Trump got elected, I've been freaking out even more, and I've been trying to average at least 150 sets a day, which is, that's just not right.
Even if you're feeling sick?
Yeah, and I have been feeling sick. Since Trump got elected, I've had the shits. And having the shits is another great way to stay ripped.
Rick, you're in the. Lance,
All
you're in the
right.
shot.
Well, Lance got a book
One
while
more,
we were.
One more question.
Okay.
Do you, Lance, you're in the shot. I'm just teasing you, Lance. So, have you tried submitting this to the Guinness Book of World Records in terms of most consecutive times to the gym?
No, but I mean, there is a website for people who run every day and who have streaks of many decades, but not for going to the gym.
Maybe you should use this as something to consider.
The Guinness Book does. It's not substantiated. I know how you get in the Guinness Book, and you need definitive records.
Right.
They would be taking my word for it, and
Well,
they don't do that.
Maybe they could. You have every time you go to the gym, you have to scan
Check
it, right?
in, yeah, but still, it's there would be holes. I couldn't get a note from the flight attendants on that flight to Hong Kong that I was doing pull-ups.
True that.
Anyway, Lance has a book. Lance
Lance.
found a source.
Okay, I'm going to pause. Well, Lance is back. What are you holding there in your hands, Mr. Lance?
Well, this is a book by Ann Coulter, the woman I love. And if Ann Coulter, you ever see this,
Show us the cover of the book.
if you ever see this video,
She's
I am conservative and I'm extremely passionate. So if you ever want to meet a guy, anyway.
Respond,
Go.
which is you got a few people working at who disagree with the 11.7 million. All right, so there's some question. But it's three people who did some surveys, plus some other people, versus, the entire U.S. government.
And
The
we know how they feel about illegal immigration, especially those Democrats in the U.S. government.
So everybody in the U.S. government is a Democrat? I thought the Republicans controlled all three branches.
No, the bureaucracies are controlled by Democrats, and there's no question about that. And those bureaucracies want to bring more Democrats in. I don't believe official government statistics. And by the way,
And I don't believe that all the bureaucracies are controlled by Democrats.
On prison populations, the government won't even release the figures. But there are estimates that, as I said last week, that 30% of the people in American prisons in the Southwest are illegal aliens. And they won't release that statistic. Because the Democrats, under the past 8 years of Obama, they want the illegal aliens here, just like you want them here. Forget the statistics.
No, let's not.
What does Rick think?
We only have 7 minutes.
Well, you want them here, though. You want them here. You don't want anybody deported, right? Just ask your own self.
No, I'm fine with deporting quite
How
a
many?
few of those
How many?
people.
How many?
Well, not the 800,000 DACA people.
Okay, so how many of the illegal aliens would you deport?
I haven't thought about it. But
Well, there's 11 million. You want to deport all of them?
no, if somebody...
How many do you want to keep?
I don't know. I'd have to see the...
Well, it's easy for me to answer.
Yeah, but I haven't thought about it.
No, but it's easy for me to answer.
Yeah, because you want to get rid of all
I
of
want to
them.
get rid of probably 95%.
Yeah, but so...
But because now you're telling me, with all the arguing we're doing, you can't even give a number.
I haven't thought about it. You just asked
Think
me...
about it right now. We're all waiting.
No, we've got 6.5 minutes left.
You want to
to
keep
take.
10 million?
I don't know who they are.
You see my
All right.
point? You see my point? Democrats want to keep them here. It's a tough question for you because you're a Democrat. You want the country to be full of illegal aliens. If you don't, then tell me. Tell me now.
I don't know. I haven't thought about it. So, I'd say, I don't know, maybe 5 million of them, 4 million of them, for sure, should get scooted back over the border. I don't know. But if somebody's been here for 22 years and they've raised a family, I don't know, there seems like there should be a pathway to citizenship for those people.
Okay.
Especially, if they've been involved with the U.S. government for 12 years and have been reporting in and built lives and have been playing by the rules. I don't know how many of those 11 million, 11.7 million have reported their whereabouts and have a long history of working with the U.S. immigration system, even though they're not citizens.
Okay, my problem is this. If you are saying that you want 5 million, roughly half by your estimate, to go back, by Hillary Clinton standards, you're a xenophobe. You're not even a Democrat anymore.
No, because Hillary Clinton never answered the question, how many of those people specifically?
She didn't want to send any of them back.
You don't know that?
No, we can Google that.
No, all right.
Her platform was to protect illegal immigrants in this country.
Not all of them. Not M13. Not all the. No, there's no way. Anyway, pass or play. Let's do that.
Okay, so the name of this game is, in terms of pass or play, is cunning and controversial, or king. This goes out to you first, Rick Rosner. O.J. Simpson was released from prison. Is he cunning and controversial, or is he a king?
He's a murderer, and he admits it. He frickin' admits it. I know a guy who confronted him on the golf course and said, "You are an asshole murderer." And O.J. Simpson says, "Don't call me an asshole." I mean, he killed those people. What'll be interesting is when he dies to see if some people are saying that maybe he has encephalopathy from playing football. They will slice up his brain, and we'll see if any of his killiness might possibly be attributed to brain damage, which doesn't excuse it. He's still a kind of a douche, but it's just, I don't know, he's not a good guy.
Thanks.
Okay, I happen to live in a black neighborhood. It's half black, half Hispanic. And in my neighborhood, the young people, okay, if you lived through the first OJ trial, all of the black people that I knew thought that OJ was unjustly treated by corrupt, racist police, and that he was innocent. Like, if you said he wasn't innocent, you were a racist. Well, now, I know this because I live in a half-black neighborhood. The young people today, when they talk about murdering someone, they refer to it, the young black people say it's called going OJ on someone. And I I asked my friend who was black, I said, when you say going OJ on someone, do you mean killing them? She said, yeah. I said, so you believe that OJ murdered those people? Yeah, that's what we all think. So that's the sociological point that I'd like to make.
Second person for controversial, cunning, or king. Hugh Hefner, who just passed away. King or controversial?
For Lance. Lance, you go.
Okay. Everybody's saying that his life was heaven.
We have 2 minutes, so.
And I agree, except that I live in LA and I know someone that used to go to those parties. And it turns out that a lot of those women were paid prostitutes. And my feeling is, if he was getting all those beautiful women because he was so incredibly charming, then yes, he's the greatest man who ever lived. If he was paying a fortune for prostitutes, then I think he was a sick fuck.
I've never been to the mansion, but I've heard it was kind of icky and a little bit decrepit. And on Twitter, the consensus has grown to be that, yeah, he was, in his politics, he was liberal and he supported women's causes. At the same time, his empire was built on the exploitation of women. So, on balance, he was kind of creepy.
I just want to say one other point. I'm against pornography, but I'm not against nudity. I'm the last guy. I'd be the biggest hypocrite on earth if I said I was against nudity. So I don't mind if a woman takes their clothes off in a magazine if she's proud of what she's got.
Except that Playboy, for decades, enforced ridiculous standards of beauty. When I first saw actual naked women, I was shocked at how they don't look like the women in Playboy. So Playboy brainwashed a generation of men and women, maybe more than one generation.
I think that they probably contributed to the coarsening of society and the making of pornography acceptable. But I also, I met a 70-year-old woman the other day that was one of the first Playboy models.
Yeah.
And she brought her magazine out and showed me the centerfold with her husband standing there. And we were laughing because you see worse than that on the beach these days. So it was okay. Now, those are the classes that pay the taxes. So whenever you lower taxes, those are the classes that get the tax breaks.
Why do they need the tax breaks? Why do people earning more than $730,000 need their tax rates lowered from 39.6 to 35% on their marginal income? Not on all their income, just their income above a certain level. Now hold on, when those cuts will, according to this study, increase the national debt, the deficit, by $4.8 trillion over the next 10 years.
The study's lying, and I'll tell you why.
Why? Because growth? Because those people are going to plug all that money back into the economy?
Yes, they will. And I have proof.
Yeah, but
I have proof.
There is no proof.
I have proof.
There's no proof.
I have proof.
It's in the future. You can't talk about it.
I have proof.
And you can talk.
It's called the Laffer curve.
Oh, the Laffer curve doesn't fucking work.
Okay, listen.
The Laffer curve
Wait a
doesn't
minute,
work.
wait.
It doesn't work. It's been disproven a gazillion times.
Rick, let me finish my point, okay?
Okay, all right.
Under Reagan and John F. Kennedy, and there was another president, we've had this discussion before.
I love this because,
Good. You can, okay. When they lowered taxes, the growth rate went up. And what they're trying to do is to stimulate the economy by lowering taxes.
All right, so under Reagan and under Kennedy in
Yes.
particular, under Kennedy and Eisenhower, the top marginal tax rate was 94%.
Correct.
If you made more than $1 million a year, you were giving the government, that next $1 million, you were keeping 60 grand and the government was getting $940,000.
Okay.
All right, so yeah, the Laffer curve might work at marginal tax rates of 94%, and under Reagan at marginal tax rates of 50 and 60%. But when it's dropped, but under Bush 1, or was it? No, it was Bush 2. Under Bush 2, he raised taxes. I mean, he lowered taxes 6 to 8 times over his administration. Growth rates dropped. Because below a certain point, tax rates were already under 40%. He lowered them further. It did not cause greater growth. And right now we're in the same situation, and the Laffer curve doesn't work at tax rates as low as they are.
Okay. Well, let me put it to you this way. I have an incident where growth rates went up with my presidents. You've got a president where you say growth rates didn't go up.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, let's give it a shot. To me, there's nothing.
They've given it a bunch of shots.
To me, there's nothing immoral or unfair about lowering taxes in the attempt to raise the growth rate in the country. It's not immoral. It's not to help rich people. It's not because Trump is mean.
Yeah, but it does help rich people. They say it helped the Gary Cohn Trump's tax guy.
It also,
said that
it will help everybody that pays taxes.
It hasn't.
And a lot of those people are rich.
Historically, if
Yeah.
you look at the past 30 years since Reagan,
Yeah.
all these tax cuts have not, past Reagan, you say Reagan, there was some growth, but once you get, if people are getting all their income confiscated above $1 million, there's no point in trying to.
I know that's you just said that was under Kennedy.
Yeah,
under Reagan
but
we had
if you-
7% growth. But,
Not every year, no.
No, but at its best we had 7% growth. Obama's growth rate never went over 3%.
Actually, it did. In 8 quarters out of 32
In quarters, not for a whole year.
Out of 32 quarters that he was president, he had 3% or higher growth in 8 of those quarters.
Right, but yearly. You can have a good quarter, but I'm talking about
8 good
yearly.
quarters.
I'm talking about yearly. He never had a year where it was over 3%. And by the way, Trump just had his first quarter, it was over 3%.
So he had one good quarter. So
But that's all the quarters he's had.
Yeah, but I've just read an article on this, and one reason we had a lot of decades of higher growth, it may not be attainable. It may be, but it may not be attainable by cutting taxes. And one reason that, like, the 50s were great for America is because we frickin' owned the world. The rest of the world was in ruins. Europe was recovering. We were the the makers and sellers to the world, and the rest of the world is caught up. Germany makes a lot of, a lot of other countries make a lot of shit.
I'm not arguing.
All right.
These are known facts.
All right. So if you're only taking away 40% or 35% of people's money, they have more incentive to make more money than if you're taking away 94% of people's money.
I understand, but you keep going back to the Kennedy administration. That's not something
Yeah.
that was an anomaly. That's not going to happen again. But between the Democrats and the Republicans right now, we're talking about a difference of 35% or 45%. That's
Right, but
all we're talking about.
Yeah,
And I'm saying we need to go down. That's all. Let's get
Yeah,
a
but by
shot.
going down, there's not as much laugh or incentive to make a shitload more money. People are like, oh, well, now I'm only
Well,
paying.
I'll tell you one of the things that Trump wants to do. We have a $20 trillion debt, and there's $2 trillion that business is hiding offshore. And he believes that if you lower taxes, that $2 trillion will be infused back into the economy by businesses that will bring it back from the Bahamas.
All right, so that's a whole different issue that I don't know.
Yeah, but it's part of the same thing.
No,
We want,
no, 'cause
it is. We want the $2 trillion back in the United States. And so that's the deal that Trump wants to make.
Well,
Is because
but hold on,
and wait,
hold on.
wait,
That's a better
stop,
argument.
You keep interrupting me.
Yeah, but that's a better. I'm interrupting.
I know, and
you
I'm going to
a-
build on it. I'm going to build
All
on
right.
it. And one of the reasons that Trump is saying this is that we've got the highest corporate tax rate, one of the highest rates in the world.
Except now I'm going to disagree with you because the corporate tax rate is what, 35%? And he wants to lower it to 25%. But the effective tax rate, when you look at what companies actually pay, once they're done taking exemptions and working their systems, it's 14%, which
Okay.
is still not
Well,
the
they're-
lowest
they're-
in the world, but it doesn't make it the highest in the
Okay,
world.
but what Trump wants to do is to go to those corporations and say, bring that $2 trillion back into our country. What's wrong with that? You agreed with me.
Yeah,
So
I'm-
that's a good thing.
So that's a separate thing. That's business tax
No, but
versus.
all right, fine, go ahead.
All right, so that's, all right. Okay.
But
Oh, wait, let me just
I'm not done.
Okay.
We also found out that in the 7 months that Trump's been in office, 1 million jobs have been created. 1 million, that's a lot.
Well, it's
Because there's-
140 a month, 140,000 a month.
Okay, but the point I'm trying to make is that I believe that's more than happened during similar periods under Obama.
I think not. If you look at,
Because I remember Biden bragging about 150,000 jobs being created, like that was supposed to impress people, and it wasn't. He was just throwing out 150,000 in a debate because it sounded like a big number.
yeah, well,
And
when you
it
look at
isn't really a big number, but 1 million is. So the economy, according to the growth rate, the job increase, is doing very well under Trump. You can say what you want, but it's doing well.
Yeah, and all right, so the only thing I can argue, that some of that increase is leftover, some of it's Trump, some of it you can argue is leftover momentum from Obama. Because he had, I forget how many consecutive quarters or months of job growth. Anyway, let's move on.
All right,
Let's break, actually.
Actually, real quick, Lance, can you tell us about the progress of the painting just briefly?
Okay, situation is that, I don't know if you've got a good shot of it. I can lower it and have you look at it for a minute.
Turn it this way a little bit, maybe.
Hang on, I can't, I'll tell you what the
Okay,
problem
that's
is.
fine.
I just lay down some oil, and before that oil drips down, I want to just cover it with a little touch of paint, because that'll keep the oil from dripping down. In this method of painting, you have very smooth paint, and not only is the paint smooth, but the canvas is slippery because I put oil down, and so you got to cover that with a little paint to keep it from dripping. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to put it down or tilt it in some way. You know what? If I tilt it like this, will you be able to get a good look at it without glare?
Yeah.
Are you getting glare?
No.
Okay, well, here's the deal. I like the fact that I put a black background back there, but it's not just a black background. There's a sort of a beginning of a desert here, and I think it's giving it a very peculiar, otherworldly quality. So I'm happy about that, because it's very important when you paint a figure that the figure not just be a cold, lifeless nude. Lifeless is a very vague term, but in figure painting, it's possible to paint a figure perfectly, but still there not be any real mood created. And I think that this is a very moody landscape, which people will find fascinating. Now I'm going to put in more detail back there, but I like the fact that it looks like he's beginning to emerge. So that's what I'm happy about. As far as this area here, I'm tightening it up, which means I'm cleaning up the roughness. I'm leaving a little roughness where it should be. I like the fact that there's some roughness that creates skin texture, and that roughness makes the figure more real to people. Because when a human being looks at another human being or anything, it's important that there be a play of light that sort of bounces on and off the object. Now, the more raised areas of texture there are in the painting, the more there is that bounce of light that is making the viewer think that what they're looking at is real. It's like if you were to look at a totally smooth plastic surface, it would look less real than a really rough asphalt or rocky area, craggy area. The craggy area would seem more viscerally real. And so that's why I'm putting in the textures. Okay.
And I help by getting old and craggy.
Hey, I love the craggy. I love the craggy. Isn't it true, viewers, don't men only get better looking?
This is a dumb question. What are you using to paint? Are they oils? Or are they what?
Oh, this is oil paint, and I'm using safflower oil. And does that give you a better look? Is it
Yeah,
less?
actually that's
Is it
better.
more
Yeah, there you go.
convincing now?
Yeah.
Or is there less glare?
There's less glare. Yeah.
Okay, if there's any glare at all, it's no good.
Yeah. There's no glare.
All right. Anything else?
So you're using what are you using to paint? the
I'm
oil?
just using oil paint, and I'm using a lot of lead white substitute to create the textures.
What does that mean to the viewer?
Well, there is now a kind of titanium white. Okay, the white that creates texture is lead white.
Right in front of the pole.
The white that creates texture is lead white, but some companies
right,
don't.
The pole's right in front of you.
But some companies don't think that that's safe, so they make a titanium white, which has also the ability to create texture. So it's all
It builds up off the canvas a little bit.
Yeah, in other words, if you look, when I lean this forward, can you see next to my finger all that craggy texture? That's because I'm building up the paint. Now you can't do that with just any paint. It has to be lead white or paint with the texture of lead white.
Now, is that the FDA working?
I'm a little pissed off that they don't make a lot of lead white anymore. But I find that the brand of paint that I like has an adequate substitute with titanium, and I like the brand for other reasons.
So you don't feel like the government's affecting your work?
I think the government is affecting my work. The government tried to ban cadmium. It tried to ban lead. Actually, there was some bureaucrat at the Fish and Game Wildlife Department that prevented me from getting my brushes because the bureaucrat didn't get a bribe, and so little squirrels in Russia that they used to make my brushes from they said are an endangered species. And what they would do is, if I'm sure the guy was a Democrat, if the brush company had bribed the guy, then they would have said, oh, it's not an endangered species. And I could get the brushes that I like, which happen to be made from Russian squirrels.
What's the matter
Now
with
that's a Russian connection right there.
What's the matter with our squirrels?
Apparently the squirrels in Russia, in Siberia, because it's such a cold climate, they have just the right kind of hair. And so the problem is that, now the truth is they've got so many of these goddamn squirrels, you can't even move in Siberia without tripping over these squirrels. They're everywhere. They want to kill them. They want to get rid of them any way they can, and I'm content to make brushes out of them because they're the finest brushes. But some Democrat bureaucrat at the National Wildlife Protection Service says that we can't have the best brushes, or cadmium red, or lead white. So just one more reason to hate the Democrats.
So what do you say? Thank you, what?
Thank you, Democrats.
Rick, you want to respond to that?
I don't know. I mean, like, I write jokes on Twitter, and the government hasn't stuck its face in that stuff yet.
So you're okay with the squirrels being protected?
Well, the jokes I write, I use all American squirrels to help me write.
Do you think there's a Russia connection? That's my question, because I know as a Democrat you're looking for that Russian collusion.
I can't even. All I can see are the squirrels on the next door neighbor's roof, plus an occasional raccoon. So,
What? You can see what on the next door window? What?
yeah,
The squirrel? What are you talking about?
that's where the squirrels are.
Is that code for something?
No, we have like, I see a squirrel, I go,
Excuse me?
and then the squirrel stops and it's like, what?
Does it get
I'd
nuts?
like to make a brush out of those tails. Let me tell you something. In the cause of art, I would kill many endangered species. That's how passionate I am about art. Thank you. Can we be done now?
Okay,
So
we
you
are
step
rolling,
back a little
folks.
bit.
All right, Lance versus Rick, 24.2.
It's a little loud.
Sorry. All right, so Lance, you had a Facebook experience this week.
All right. Well, like most of the people on Facebook, but I'm going to talk to you about identity politics. But before we do, I just want to make something very clear. I keep raging about the population, the illegal alien population coming in from Mexico. I'm equally upset with coming from any country. And I would like to say that they are depressing the wages not just for American citizens of all races, but Hispanics in America. American Hispanics
Well, hold on.
are getting their wages depressed by illegal aliens from Hispanic countries.
Would you be depressed
So
about illegal Swedes?
So my problem is not with the fact that they're from Mexico. The problem is that they're depressing the wages from everybody. To answer your question,
Because you said that if you and I went
if-
to Sweden, because they don't have any dark, swarthy Jews over there, that we'd be exotic and we could get laid.
that's a lie.
You said that.
I didn't.
It was like 6 years
never
ago.
said.
It was like 6 or
Well,
10 or 12 years ago.
actually now, if you're a swarthy individual, you can actually rape a woman.
Now,
in
let's not
Sweden
go into that. Come
if
on.
you happen to be Muslim and they don't do anything to you, they're happy about it.
No.
But actually, no. If the illegal aliens were 18-year-old Swedish women, I would think it was okay. So now, the point I'm trying to make, though, is that this week on Facebook, like every other conservative, let me tell you the names I was called. I was called a racist, bigoted, homophobic, Islamophobic, misogynistic, white supremacist, Nazi.
Well, what about Hitler McHitler?
I've been compared to Hitler for almost 4 years now.
Hitler McHitler.
Oh, no, haven't been called that. Now, the point I'm trying to make, now this is by different people, by the way. I don't want you to think that it was just one upset person. It's virtually every liberal that I've disagreed with. I had a Jew call me anti-Semitic, knowing that I was Jewish.
Well, you can be Jewish and self-hating.
Okay.
I don't think you are, but you can
Okay.
be.
Well, I mean, the point is that I was called a Nazi Jew, a Jewish Nazi, a white supremacist, a racist, a bigot.
Okay.
All right, all those things. The only one, weirdly enough, that I will cop to is I am Islamophobic. I am. I think Islam is a death cult. I think it needs to be eradicated. If
Why
there
don't you
was some
stop
way.
right there? Because then we have to.
No, all right, that's all I have to say about that. But there's a point I'm trying to make here. My response was that when Democrats do this, they're actually losing, because that was all Hillary Clinton had, and she lost.
No, but she had
So-
plans for everything. Trump had plans for nothing.
No. What I'm saying is her main attack was to call Trump all the things that I was called, and it didn't work. The American people aren't buying this shit anymore. And so my point is that your identity politics trap is not working anymore. And in a way, it's good. I want you to keep calling everybody you disagree with a racist, because you're going to lose the next election as well. Because people like myself know that they're not bigoted, Nazi, white supremacist, homophobic racists. And it's just, I think we're seeing the end of this.
When I go to Drudge and I read the comments, there are plenty of well, I know that the comments are a-holes, and they're not representative of the entire group.
So let me tell you why I was
Trump-
called a
Well, hold on though. One quick thing is Trump hasn't been over 40% approval on the Gallup Daily poll in months.
You love those polls because they tell you lies, and you love hearing.
No, because Gallup has been doing these polls since the late 1930s.
Yeah, why do you keep believing them? You lost the goddamn election because of those stupid polls.
No, not that if you looked at the right ones, they
See,
made
this
silver.
is what bothers me. You're super intelligent. You don't realize you were bamboozled. They weren't right. The polls were wrong.
If you looked at the right polls, the polls that didn't suck gave Trump a significant chance of winning. And nobody could have predicted the Comey thing that he said on October 8th, 11 days before the election, which, if you look at the polls, it shifted the election by 2%. Some people say 3%.
Okay.
The polls weren't that far off.
Okay. It's not worth discussing. What was the next thing we were going to talk about?
You were going to say why you got called a misogynist.
Thanks for reminding me, even though you are my opponent. The reason I got called a misogynist was because I had the audacity to suggest that women were not being discriminated against in the art world, female painters. And what happens is the women cite this statistic. There's this article that says women are paid less. And the reason that they're...
For their art, you're saying?
Yeah, something like that. And the reason is that the poll, the study, only, it deals with the modern art world, okay? And that means for people that aren't that well versed in the art world, that means things like Andy Warhol and David Hockney, really famous old male artists, are getting paid more. And also,
especially if they're dead.
Yeah, and also people that do this very, very weird, sick, abstract art stuff. that everybody thinks is so funny when they see it in articles
What,
in the
like
museum.
Damien Hirst and
Yeah,
sliced
like
cows
yeah,
and
like
sliced sharks?
sharks and formaldehyde. Those guys get paid more. And what I was trying to say is that in the realist art world, which is what I'm in, we don't have sharks and formaldehyde and these old-timey paintings from the 50s by Jackson Pollock. And as a result, the quality matters more. And so what happens is women, they can paint realism just as well as men can. It's not divided by gender or race. And so in the realist art world, women do just as well. So, but
In terms of how much they make.
in the positions they get, and they get faculty positions, they get money, they get shows. It's rough. It's similar. I don't have a great study on this, but I've been in the business for 40 years, and I've never seen a woman discriminated against that deserved it, because you can tell how well they can paint. If
That didn't deserve it.
what I'm saying is women are treated fairly,
Okay.
and
So-
the women that can paint well get more opportunities.
I don't know I don't know your business.
Okay, but that's not the point I was going to make. The reason I was called a misogynist.
But hold on, can we do one thing real quick? Which
Sure.
is, we can stipulate that in the past, say anything more than, 70, 100 years ago, women were wildly discriminated against.
Yes, absolutely. And there's a reason for that. There was sexism, and there was also just an understanding that women would stay home and take care of the kids. And that's why you could make a living as a man working at a hardware store and have a family, because there was only one income. That's why incomes are so low right now, because we allowed women into the workforce.
I thought we were just talking about art, but okay.
Well, no, I'm just saying it bears repeating. I've said this before, but when you double the amount of people working, wages go down. In the 50s, you could make a living, as Mr. Drucker at the hardware store and sell people a bolt, and you could raise a family that way. But not anymore. So there are, and the reason is because people assumed that if you were a woman, a man would take care of you in return for you taking care of his brood. So it wasn't just sexism, although there was a tremendous amount of sexism.
Let me just say that I'm sure there's stuff wrong with what you're saying, but I don't want to argue about it.
Well,
I don't want to have to try to figure.
You should argue.
No, because I haven't figured out exactly.
No, that's actually, believe it or not, that is the best explanation as to why you can't make a living anymore in this country unless you've got an advanced degree. It's because all those shitty jobs were good enough to support a family when there were very few people in the workforce.
There might also be some bad government policies in there. But let's move on to.
All right, so the point is that what I argued was, I said that the person that runs the gallery is more interested in what's on the canvas than what's between your legs.
Okay.
Now, what is misogynistic about that?
As long as what you're saying reflects the reality of the situation.
Well, that's the problem. Now, let me just go on with what happened. So all these women and men, vile, effeminized men, said, "Well, you're a misogynist," and I said, "Prove me wrong," and they just shut up.
No, wait, hold on.
No, just let me finish the story.
But you just said vile, effeminized man.
Yes. Okay. Now let me just continue with what I was saying. A man that starts calling people misogynistic is a vile. That's called a guy that's trying to get laid by pretending that he's on the woman's side. It's oily, it's deceitful, and it's disgusting. I have less respect for them. So my point.
That's a blanket characterization.
Okay.
Like I'm feminist, And my days of trying to get laid by being feminist are 30 years in the past, except that, you know, I try to practice feminism in my everyday life because A, because I believe in it, and B, because I'm married to a woman.
You're proving my point, Rick.
Well, I certainly did try to get laid by being a feminist. It's a terrible
Did you,
way.
you interject to disgrace yourself and prove my point? These are not
Yeah, but
going. This
wait,
debate is not going well for you.
No, but you can. Well, I'm a comedian, so I'm going to
All
do
right.
that.
Can
but
I finish my point?
But hold
Because
on.
I did
but
have
hold
a
on.
point I was trying
you
to
can
make.
believe in feminism and still try to get laid by being a feminist. I mean,
I can't argue with that. That was logical.
it doesn't work, though.
It's sad.
It doesn't.
It's pathetic, but it's true.
It doesn't work.
All right. Now, yeah. All right. So my point is this. When I said to them, well, do you think I'm wrong about this? Do you think women are being treated unfairly in the realist art world? And of course, they couldn't argue with me because I'm right. They are being treated fairly. But here's the point. They just started repeating, well, you're a misogynist, you're a misogynist. And what I found out was fascinating. The new left-wingers they don't debate you anymore. It's not necessary for them to debate you. The only thing they do now, this is a new tactic. The first tactic was just to call you a bigot, misogynist, homophobic, racist. The second tactic, when somebody fights back and says, well, prove that, is to say you're not worth arguing with. You just are one. So that's the new thing. And I was amazed by it. And I started saying, well, don't you have any pride? Can't you defend your point? Are you not intelligent enough? I mean, we're having a debate here. Can't you debate? Can't you match wits to prove your point? No, we don't have to. And so the very next day, I'm listening to Sam Harris, who is a sort of, he's not conservative or liberal. And he was saying that's...
Would liberals say he's...
Whatever side you're on, you would agree with him and disagree with him in certain things. But the point I'm trying to make is that he said that's the new tactic. I heard it was verified by him. He said, yeah, they don't argue with you because they can't prove their point. It's enough for them to just call you a bigot and then just move on. That's the new tactic.
But
so you're part of a disgusting movement.
It's not that new a tactic. It's not that old a tactic, but it's all over the internet, and it's done by both sides.
No, it isn't. I don't call people homophobic racists.
You're one guy.
I don't know a single Republican that calls people homophobic, racist, white supremacists.